Around 1540 on April 6, 2001, while playing video games with a friend, 18-year-old Lu Tugai received a call from his father informing him that his mother had been murdered. Mr. Lu, Jiai's father, was the first to discover his wife, Tham Boi's death. The victim was found collapsed on the bed with 2 strangulation marks on her neck, and there were 2 neckties nearby, one of which was torn. According to investigations, Jiai left home around 1 p.m. Mr. Lu returned home just after 3 p.m., and Tham Boi was murdered during that 2-hour interval. The cause of death was external force applied to the neck, and the weapon was determined to be the 2 neckties scattered next to the body. The police speculated that the perpetrator was a strong man who acted ruthlessly. The victim's family lived quite comfortably due to Mr. Lu's business. Upon examining the crime scene, the police found that the drawers in the master bedroom had been ransacked but no valuable jewelry was missing. The safe, placed in a conspicuous location in the house, showed no signs of tampering. Thus, it was clear that the motive wasn't money. The victim's clothing was almost intact, with no signs of sexual assault. Mr. Lu asserted that he never casually revealed his home address or phone number to others, nor did he allow just anyone to visit his home. Meanwhile, Tham Boi's personal relationships were quite simple as she had been bedridden for a long time, only occasionally going out for walks and dancing with her female friends. During the crime scene investigation, the police found that the perpetrator had cleaned up, erasing all fingerprints after committing the crime. A neighbor living on the first floor reported hearing the doorbell of the victim's house around 1:30 p.m., followed by Tham Boi asking, "Who's there?" A man with a Shanghai accent quickly replied, "It's me." Tham Boi didn't ask any further questions and opened the door immediately. Based on the neighbor's testimony, the perpetrator likely knew the victim or had pre-arranged to visit the house. The police found a tea set on the tea table that had been washed clean, possibly used by the perpetrator. Mr. Lu stated that they only used this tea set to entertain guests and never used it otherwise. Furthermore, on that day, Tham Boi used a new, more expensive brand of tea, indicating that the perpetrator might have been someone Tham Boi valued. Jiai recalled an important detail that the afternoon before the murder, a man with a Shanghai accent called their home using the landline number. When Jiai answered the phone, the man naturally mentioned Jiai's and Mr. Lu's names, and asked if Mr. Lu was home, to which he received a negative response, and the caller said he would call back later. However, when Jiai asked his father about it, he learned that his father had not received any calls. The police investigated the call logs and found that it was made from a public telephone booth using coins, making it difficult to determine the caller's identity. At the time of the murder, Jiai was a computer science student at a vocational school in Hongkou District, Shanghai. As graduation approached, the whole class decided to write a death note, detailing each student's address, phone number, and other personal information. Thus, all classmates knew Jiai's address and phone number. Over 2 months, the police investigated 137 people related to the victim's family but found no leads. The case was at a standstill. As days passed, the atmosphere in Jiai's house began to change. Sadness and suspicion began to grow between the father and son. Mr. Lu suspected his son because on the fateful day, Jiai unusually took his mother's mobile phone. Jiai also frequently argued with his mother during his rebellious phase. According to Jiai, mobile phones were rare at that time, so he secretly took his mother's phone to show off to a classmate. Jiai regretted and blamed himself for thinking that if he hadn't taken his mother's phone that day, the tragedy might not have happened. Jiai also harbored suspicions about his father because he suddenly returned home early that day and remarried shortly after his wife's death. Between the father and son, cracks began to appear, living in a suffocating atmosphere. Until the afternoon of July 1, 2002, when Jiai heard that his classmate named Cao Tin had been murdered. Tin's mother found her daughter strangled to death on the bed when she returned home around 2:48 p.m. on July 1. In just over a year, both a mother and a classmate were killed, and Jiai once again became a suspect in the police investigation. The investigation team noticed many similarities between the 2 cases. The victims were all women who met their fate at home while alone in the afternoon. At the crime scenes, the police found that the perpetrator deliberately cleaned up, leaving no traces. The doors were not broken, no property was stolen from the houses, and the victims were not sexually assaulted. 3 hours before the murders, the victims received phone calls, and the voice on the other end sounded like that of a middle-aged man speaking with a Shanghai accent. Tin's mother answered the phone and heard the caller asking, "Is Cao Tin home?" So she replied, "She's not home now, but she'll be back soon." "I'm going out now, you can wait for her to return and call back later." Tin's mother didn't realize that her simple words helped the perpetrator confirm that the victim was home alone and prepared to commit the crime. The police investigated the call logs and found that this time the perpetrator didn't call from a public phone booth but from a grocery store 6 kilometers away from the crime scene. The store owner remembered that it was a rainy afternoon, very few people came to make calls, and she was particularly impressed by a man with an angry face because he didn't pay. This man, about 40 years old, 1.7 meters tall, with dark skin, wearing glasses, and speaking with a Shanghai accent, matches the description, so the police immediately drew a sketch of the suspect. Because of the many similarities, the police combined the cases of Tham Boy and Cao Tin. After much speculation and investigation, they concluded that the two cases were committed by the same perpetrator. The police questioned how the murderer knew the victim's specific addresses and landline phone numbers, and how he gained the victim's trust to let him into their homes. Suspicion fell on Tin's death note, which contained the same information as Gi's. After analyzing the case details, the police believed that the perpetrator could be a teacher, administrator, or parent from the vocational school that Gi and Tin attended. The police summoned all of Gi and Tin's classmates, showing them the sketch for identification. Among them, a female student named Luong Tiu said, "My mother seems to have met this person." Tiu recounted that shortly after graduation, her mother received a call from a strange man claiming to be a teacher, saying he wanted to learn about the graduates' job situations. He mentioned Tiu's name and their homeroom teacher Mr. Vong, saying that Mr. Vong was sick and he was here to replace him, but he kept trying to confirm that only Tiu's mother was at home. 2 hours later, a man wearing glasses, dressed in a blue suit, knocked on Tiu's door. Tiu's house had 2 rooms, 601 and 602, with a connecting door between them. Normally, guests would knock on 601, but this man knocked on 602, the address Tiu filled in the death note. He appeared gentle and polite, spoke with a Shanghai accent, but didn't inquire about the students' situations and kept asking Tiu's mother if there was anyone else at home. He conversed while observing his surroundings until he discovered the connecting door between the 2 rooms, at which point he seemed wary, said a few more words, then hurriedly left. Afterwards, Tiu's mother found it suspicious and called to verify with the homeroom teacher, only to learn that Mr. Vong wasn't sick, nor did he send another teacher to visit students' families. Through Tiu and her mother's account, the police deduced that the death note was the tool used by the perpetrator to commit the crime, but none of the students in the class had lost their notes. The police investigated all 54 students and 78 male acquaintances of these students, as they also had the opportunity to see the death note, but still found no suspects. However, the investigations prevented the perpetrator from committing further crimes, and he disappeared since then. After a breakthrough, the case was at a standstill again, lasting for nearly 20 years. Tiu's mother narrowly escaped death, but the families of the other victims were shattered. The relationship between Gi and his father, once strained, had been reconciled. By 2015, Mr. Lu had passed away due to illness. Meanwhile, Tin's mother lived in self-blame for many years, regretting disclosing her daughter's stay-at-home status over the phone. Tin's father, seeing his daughter's tragic death, blamed his wife while also blaming himself for failing to protect his daughter. In the same year, 2015, Tin's father also passed away. 20 years after the murders, investigative technology had advanced significantly. The police extracted biological evidence from the remaining evidence at the crime scene. They then compared the results with a total of 421 people, including parents of students, teachers, and family members, and school staff at that time. In early March 2021, when investigating the father of a student named Dao Lak Lak, the police found him very uncomfortable, saying he had divorced and asked the authorities to investigate another man named Duong Keen Kwok. Lak's parents divorced in 1996, after which Lak's father went to Singapore for business. During the period from 2001 to 2002, Lak's mother brought Lak to live with her boyfriend named Kwok, but they did not register their marriage, nor did they inform the police, so Kwok was not on the investigation list. Searching for Kwok's data, the police were extremely surprised because his photo closely resembled the sketch of the suspect from that year. Late on March 15, 2021, the police raided Kwok's residence and found him lying on the floor with a deep wound on his wrist, having died from excessive bleeding. Kwok was 67 years old and in the terminal stage of stomach cancer. After forensic examination, Kwok's DNA sample and evidence at the crime scene matched perfectly, confirming that he was the murderer who used the death note to commit the crimes and evaded capture for 20 years. Living with Lak's mother, Kwok easily obtained the note containing information about Lak's classmates. However, his motive for the crimes remained undisclosed. According to the police, Lak's mother had undergone major surgery in early 2001, before the first murder occurred. After the illness, her sexual desire decreased, and the perpetrator perhaps felt that his girlfriend could no longer satisfy his desires, leading him to cruel intentions towards other women. We hope you enjoyed this video and found the content engaging and informative. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content like this. Your support means the world to us, and we look forward to bringing you more great videos in the future. Thank you for watching.